Welcome to Sharika Talks, Unraveling the Truth, a journalist's quest. Subscribe for the truth.
Chapter 52, The Apotheosis. Sachin couldn't understand the sensation creeping over his skin. It felt as if there was a living person standing right beside him. He slowly extended his hand toward the small, pyramid-like mound marked Agastya. His hand moved involuntarily. He paused when his fingers were mere millimeters from the cold stone. Every hair on his neck stood on edge. He felt a rhythmic thumping against his palm. He couldn't tell if it was his own elevated heartbeat, the acoustic vibrations from the temple above, or something emanating from within the mound itself. He could clearly picture King Marthandavarma standing in this exact spot 3 centuries ago, trying to comprehend the impossible. To read about animals hibernating for years and think about creatures like crocodiles and snakes defying biological aging was one thing. To theorize about extended human longevity was another. But to stand before something that suggested a human who had transcended natural lifespan, that was beyond comprehension. Even though the Prakrita translations he had just skimmed were ruthlessly scientific and to the point, his mind rebelled. "I came here for the truth," he whispered to himself, "but I wasn't prepared for it." He withdrew his hand. He did not know whether he felt relief or regret. He didn't know if he would regret this decision later, but instinct screamed that if he broke open this seal, he would cross a line from which there was no return. And for the first time since entering the temple, caution outweighed curiosity. He turned away. He stepped back and returned to his work. Hours dissolved into the darkness. He meticulously photographed, translated, and cataloged the vast archive. When fatigue threatened to blind him, he took 5-minute breaks to explore the endless corridors of the subterranean complex. He had already found out from sketches and blueprints that the mechanism that kept the trapdoor locked was a one-way lock. He could unlock it anytime from inside. So he wasn't in a hurry. He planned to stay in the vault until September 24th midnight, since he had to accompany the children to Delhi on the 25th on the Kerala Express. During his first stroll, he found a detailed map drawn by Marthandavarma. It depicted the elegant canal system the king had dug 300 years ago. Sachin noticed that the Padmatirtham lake was connected to this underground system, ensuring it always had running fresh water while remaining entirely concealed. Another thought struck him: the elegant covered drainage systems of the Indus Valley civilization. Historians still marveled at how the Indus people built sanitation grids light years ahead of their era. But now, as Sachin looked at Marthandavarma's map based on Agastya's designs, the dots connected perfectly. Knowledge had not appeared suddenly in history. It was the memory of a lost past that made the leaps in civilization possible. During another stroll, he found a small chamber off the main hall. It resembled a crude bedroom, complete with an ancient stone toilet, similar to those found in the old Travancore palaces. So Marthandavarma did indeed live down here, Sachin realized. He spent days, maybe weeks, in the dark studying these texts. So the air? He thought. There must be a natural ventilation system or something that recycled the air. He had taken a gamble and removed the mask. The air was remarkably clean, so he didn't have to rely on his rebreather anymore from that time. His next detour, he found the internal side of the entrance near Vault A. He was thunderstruck. The entire antechamber of the entrance was rigged with explosive spheres, nitroglycerin encased in hardened clay and resin. Any attempt to force entry from the outside, like the Supreme Court committee almost did in 2011, would detonate the spheres, collapsing the ceiling and sealing the chamber forever. The royal family called it the Nagapasha Bandhanam, the seal of the serpent. And they argued it must not be broken, and if broken, there would be consequences. Literally the seal of the Naga, Sachin mused. It wasn't magic. It was chemistry and structural engineering. The curse, spoken of by the royal family, was not mythology, it was engineering. During another stroll, he found the stone steps that led to the third entrance, the Yuban tunnel under the Padmatirtham pond. At the end of the tunnel, a trapdoor was sealed with similar explosive spheres. He marveled at the brilliance. Time bled away. One of the greatest challenges was hydration. Sachin had brought 2 liters of water and a 3-liter bottle of Bacardi, which he intended to last the entire train trip to Delhi. Almost half of the first bottle of Bacardi he used for cleaning. The water he used carefully. Yet in the cool, constant temperature of the vault, it was tolerable. And as he continued cataloging, his mind reeled. He looked at diagrams of the human nervous system drawn millennia before the invention of the microscope. His mind flashed to the famous Pashupati seal, the oldest artifact of the Indus Valley civilization, carbon dated to over 5,000 years ago, depicting a horned figure, Shiva sitting in Mulabandhasana, an advanced yogic posture that even Sachin struggled to perform correctly. If descriptions of such advanced postures existed 5,000 years ago, when did yoga actually originate? Even with modern medicine's advancements, almost every physical therapy technique had a root in ancient yoga textbooks. The neurological and spinal benefits of these postures were still yielding new discoveries daily. Somehow, several millennia ago, they had uncovered the intricacies of the human body. Then he remembered the words of Dr. Deepak Chopra he had read years ago. Every year, 99.9% of all the atoms in a human body are entirely replaced. How those cells remade themselves was ultimately determined by the brain. That was how deep meditation and thought could physically alter the body's chemistry to cure diseases. Meditation, something modern medicine still struggles to understand completely. Sachin pictured the first Shiva, not as a god with a trident, but as a human with godlike intellect and anatomical mastery. When he mapped out the chronology, the greatest revelation of all struck him: the deification timeline of gods. Every god, every deity was simply a remarkable human being who predated a civilization by centuries, whose memory had outlived their mortality. The kings who came after Shiva, the ones who took the title of Indra, viewed Shiva not as a god, but as a superior ancient king. The triad created by Shiva, which controlled the development of science, still existed even then. Millennia later, the next generation of kings arose during the era of Rama. To them, Shiva was a myth, a god. But Indra was just a king from a previous era whose descendants still survived. Another long era passed, bringing the Mahabharata and the reign of Krishna. To Krishna's generation, Rama was an ancient, revered king whose descendants were their contemporaries. But Shiva and Indra had fully ascended to godhood. Then came the Nanda dynasty and Ashoka, and recorded modern history. To them, Krishna wasn't a god, he was a historical king. But every king before Krishna, including Rama, had become divine. In the modern era, every figure up to Krishna had been deified. Sachin chuckled, the sound echoing off the granite. In 1,000 years, Ashoka and the Chola kings will become gods just like Krishna. Give it another millennium, and even Marthanda Varma or Mahatma Gandhi might be worshipped as gods, just as Jesus Christ became God. Since he couldn't read the raw Prakrita texts without Marthanda Varma's Vatishuthu translations, Sachin simply photographed everything. When he reached the botanical section, he was stunned by the lengths Agastya had gone to. It wasn't just medicines. There were poisons, sedatives. He found a translated description of a specific extract from a rare Himalayan opioid plant, which Marthanda Varma tried to replicate but failed. When mixed with a highly volatile gun-cotton sphere, it created an explosive that instantly vaporized the opioid into a massive cloud of knockout gas. Marthanda Varma's translation indicated that Agastya had called it Samohana Astra, the weapon of mass hypnosis from the epics. Sachin realized it was just a chemical flashbang, centuries before modern anesthesia, before tear gas, something more advanced. By midnight on September 24th, he was finally done. He carefully copied all the terabytes of data onto a small SSD. Using the vault's surprisingly strong signal directly under the sanctum, he uploaded a compressed, encrypted copy to a remote server. He packed the sample of Terra Preta and several other artifacts into his bag in a neat package. He made sure that even if he didn't make it out, the truth still would. He checked his phone. 234 missed calls from Chugru. Sachin smiled faintly and ignored them. He took a long swig from the Bacardi bottle. His water was completely gone. He took a deep breath, glancing back at the magnificent, terrifying Cathedral of Knowledge one last time. He climbed the stone stairs to the ceiling. He pushed open the trapdoor after unlocking the ancient lock and hoisted himself up into the small, dark space of Vault D. He climbed the wall of Vault D using the narrow footsteps and reached the ceiling trapdoor. Before he stood up or pushed the final granite slab that would lead to the inner sanctum completely open, he deployed the Axis Vidius drone. The tiny machine buzzed silently up toward the edge of the stone slab. He wanted it to hover at the CCTV camera. Through the drone's camera feed on his phone, something caught his eye. A few feet away from the trapdoor, standing in the corridor of the inner sanctum, were two men. Sachin's breath caught in his throat. He immediately closed the trapdoor instinctively. He froze, staring at the phone screen strapped to his left forearm. The slight scrape of the stone made the men turn their heads. Sachin's scarred right hand instantly dove into his right pocket, his fingers wrapping around the cold grip of the Glock. He checked the drone's feed continuously. One man was a temple guard in khaki uniform. The other was a civilian in a crisp white shirt. Sachin switched on the drone's highly sensitive microphone, landing the tiny machine on a stone pillar near them to preserve battery. The audio was staticky, fighting the ambient noise of the rain outside, but the words chilled him. They were talking about Vault B. The civilian was asking the guard if the royal family had accessed the vaults recently, or if the guard they posted at the royal family's palace had found any clue of the key to Vault B. Then the conversation shifted. The civilian asked about the guard's upcoming transfer and instructed the policeman to find new young recruits for the organization. It wasn't a casual chat. Sachin understood he wasn't the only one searching for the truth. Sachin felt a spike of panic, but he forced his breathing to slow. He was safe down here. Even if he couldn't get out tonight, the lock was open for him. He would try tomorrow, even though the kids might have to travel without him to Delhi. This is more important than anything, he told himself. He waited. At 3 a.m., the policeman finally exited the corridor. The civilian followed. Sachin waited 15 more agonizing minutes. He hovered the drone, doing a full sweep of the sanctum corridor. Empty. He instructed the drone to hover at the CCTV camera in a bee-like pattern. He climbed up along the wall of Vault D again, preparing to push open the trapdoor and make his sprint for the roof after entering the inner sanctum. Then suddenly, he heard it clearly. A heavy, loud creak. The main wooden door to Vault D, the room he was currently standing in, was being unlocked from the outside. A primal, paralyzing fear struck him. Someone was coming in. Sachin reacted with sheer instinct. He threw himself backward to the floor of Vault D from the wall. Then he crouched down in a split second and unlocked the snake lock. Then he practically dove into the open trapdoor in the floor. As he fell, he spun in the air and kicked the stone trapdoor up as he fell down into the abyssal darkness of Vault B, rolling hard down the granite stairs. He saw the door shooting upward with the tremendous force he delivered due to his panic. The heavy stone slab slammed shut above him, the mechanical snakes locking instantly into place. Sachin lay at the bottom of the stairs, the breath knocked out of his lungs. Total darkness enveloped him. He was locked inside. He didn't know what to do or how to escape. End of chapter 52.
Thank you for watching Unraveling the Truth, A Journalist's Quest. Subscribe to stay updated on Sharika's journey. Stay tuned for the next part.